Welcome to the Outlap F1 Podcast, F1 for Beginners series. Today's episode is dedicated to providing you with a soup-to-nuts look at the sport we love and we love to talk about, Formula One. All right, so let's get into the meat and potatoes of this episode where we start breaking down all sorts of different terms and rules and regulations. And thankfully, the good thing about Formula One is all the rules and regulations are extremely black and white, clear cut, no room for debate at all. So it makes these sorts of episodes really easy.
If that's what you thought you were getting, you may be in the wrong place.
And that's the end of the show. Have a good night, guys.
Yeah, first one across the line wins, and that's pretty much it.
Sometimes.
All right, so allow me to get into it here. I'll lead things off with a simple question. What is Formula One? All right, so Formula One is an open-wheel car similar to an Indy car for our American audience that continues to grow. So thank you for that. It is considered to be the absolute pinnacle of car racing in the world. I think all four of us would definitely agree with that. It easily has the largest of budgets of any racing series, typically hundreds of millions. But now there is a budget cap in place, so hopefully this may level the playing field a little bit. So as of right now, the cap restricts performance-critical spend to level the playing field with three main areas targeted: car design/development, component manufacture, and testing/race operations. Spend in these areas was restricted to $145 million in 2021, and it'll reduce by $5 million in each of 2022 and 2023. So one thing that you didn't hear me talk about when I talked about the budget was driver salaries, which has been a little bit of a hot topic recently, but that does not include to be in the cap. So when you hear this news about MaxVerstappen signing potentially a $50 million a year contract for, 5 years, that doesn't go against the cap. So that's very, very good news for the drivers. Kind of not great news for the smaller budget teams that can't afford that. Both Red Bull have an Oracle giving them $500 million. I don't think they have a problem affording that. So good for them. So moving on, there are hundreds of millions of fans from around the world making it a top 10 most popular sport on the globe. Last year's United States Grand Prix at COTA, which you three went to, and I missed due to some health issues, which is kind of a bummer, was the largest attended Grand Prix in history with over 400,000 people attending over the weekend. And actually, this is kind of an interesting fact, especially for us Americans, but worldwide, more people watched the season finale last year than watched the Super Bowl. So that's pretty impressive because the Super Bowl is top dog in American sports, and it's not close. Only the absolute best drivers in the world are in F1, save for a couple of kids with extremely generous and ridiculously wealthy fathers. We do have one less one now, thanks to MaxVerstappen. So that I don't think anybody's going to miss him. Most technologically advanced cars in the world, which is then used for developing and incorporating the new tech into common road cars. Will my next car have the same sexy side pods as this year's Ferrari? Probably not. Well, at least not any of the cars I can afford. But there are some things that have transitioned from Formula One to road cars. So it's kind of interesting to kind of get the first look at some new technologies. It's got a global presence, racing all over the world. There are 10 different teams, aka Constructors. Those are licensed from 6 different countries, and we have 20 drivers from now 14 different countries. However, none from the USA as of right now, but hopefully that might change in a couple of years. So that would be very exciting. I did mention that there are Constructors. There are 2 types of teams within that Constructors base, but you have Works and Customers. Typically, Works teams are ones that produce their own car and engine. For example, Mercedes is the Works team and provides the power unit for Aston Martin, Williams, and McLaren. Then you have Ferrari as a Works team, and they provide the power units for themselves, obviously, Alfa Romeo and Haas. Red Bull, using the formerly produced Honda power units, but is now branded as the Red Bull Racing Powertrains. They supply to themselves an AlphaTauri, which is their sister team. And then Alpine, which is also Renault. They're the Works team and provides the Renault-produced power unit for nobody except for themselves, except for maybe an American team, which hopefully happens. And that is about it for what Formula One is. So, Andy, I think it's your turn.
So in order to participate in the FIA Formula One World Championship, you need to have an FIA Formula One World Championship super license. And in order to do that, you have to be, one, at least 18 years of age. The driver also needs to already hold a Grade A competition license. That driver should have a full and valid road car driving license. The driver's license should be from the country that is listed on the driver's nationality to obtain the super license. The driver should pass an FIA theory test about the F1 sporting code and regulations. The driver should have completed at least 80% of 2 full seasons in any single-seater championship. They need to have accumulated at least 40 super license points over the previous 3 seasons in any combination of the single-seater championships, which are reported in what they call Supplement 1 of the regulations. And how does a driver get to those super license points? Most motorsport series outside of F1 award super license points for finishing in certain positions in the championship on a sliding scales. So like we said, you need to get 40 from at least 3 years to qualify. For example, winning the Formula 2 or IndyCar championship would guarantee you those 40 points and a super license. If you were to win the Formula E or the Formula 3 championship, you would earn 30 out of your 40 super license points. There is a free practice only super license, which you can only participate in the practices if you go this route. In 2019, this super license was introduced, which many teams have used to offer practice 1 drives to academy and their reserve drivers. The same age and competition license requirements as a normal super license are required for the free practice only license. However, you only need to have 25 points from racing in other categories over the last 3 years, or you need to have completed at least 6 races in Formula 2, which is the main feeder series, or supposed to be the main feeder series, into Formula 1. And so from that, we'll talk about the championship, and I will hand it to Deanna.
Yes, so the Formula 1 championship is broken out between 2 different titles. You have the drivers and then the constructors. While the drivers are concerned with the drivers' world title, the teams are primarily concerned, in most cases, with the world title because that is the championship that pays out the money. So the drivers don't receive any money from the sanctioning body, but they will typically receive large bonuses from their teams for excellent on-track performance. So for a race weekend and a race non-sprint races, the points allocation are as follows. For first, you get 25 points. In second, you get 18. Third, 15. Fourth, 12. Fifth, 10. Sixth, 8. Seventh, 6. Eighth, 4. Ninth, 2. And 10th, 1. And there's also 1 bonus point on offer, and that is for the driver that secures the fastest lap, but that driver must be in the top 10 to be eligible to receive that point. So then for these sprint races, this is updated for 2022, and our sprint weekends this year are Imola, Austria, and Brazil. So the drivers have an additional opportunity to score points, and this is on Saturday, and they go to the top 8, and it basically just goes from 8 points down to 1 point for those top 8. Now moving on to John to talk about the calendar.
Yeah, so the first on-track action that we had for 2022 was considered a shakedown session, not an official test, and that occurred at Barcelona in Spain from February 23rd to the 25th. The first official preseason test for 2022 is slated for March 10th through the 12th. It's a 3-day test, which will be partially in the daylight hours and partially at night at Bahrain, which is also the location of last year's test and also the location of the first race this season. Currently, there are 22 races on the calendar. There were originally 23. However, Russia has been canceled due to the ongoing situation in Europe right now. It is unknown at this point if there will be a replacement race, but we will continue to follow that as the time goes on. Currently, the Formula One races in 20 different countries, with Italy and the United States of America with 2 each. The season runs from March 20th in Bahrain, like I mentioned earlier, all the way to November 20th in Abu Dhabi at the end of the season. Now, if you're new to the sport and you're trying to figure out how in the world am I going to convince my significant other that I need to be in front of a TV for 8 to 9 months out of the year every single Sunday, don't worry, we have a semi-solution. So there is what's called a summer break in Formula One every single year, and this year it's going to run from July 31st after the Hungary race all the way to August 28th, which the first race after that would be Belgium for the Spa race. So you essentially have about a month in there where you get to make up, get a lot of brownie points for your significant other. Make sure you're on good graces with them, and then get settled in for the end of the season. New races for this year, just the one brand new race, at least at this point. We have Miami coming onto the calendar for the first time. We'll be racing around the Miami Dolphins Stadium. The track is on pace to be completed on time and is looking beautiful from all the aerial shots, and that is currently slated to be May the 8th. It's definitely going to be the Monaco of the West based on the ticket prices. It looks like it'll be a celebrity fair, so it should be a heck of a good time. So now for most notable tracks, we'll throw it to Deanna for the first one.
Yeah, so the crown jewel of F1 is Monaco. Not necessarily at this point known for the quality of the racing, although we hope with the new cars it might improve, although they're rather large, so we'll see. But it is for the spectacle. If you have heard of F1, this is probably the one race you have heard of. It's where all the celebrities come. They have yachts. It's a whole big ordeal. Monaco, one of the richest countries in the world. So seeing F1 cars at that high rate of speed in such narrow streets, that alone is amazing to watch, and definitely highly recommend the qualifying session for that weekend.
Yeah, for the next one we have Monza, and if you love speed, which if you're watching Formula One, then we know you love speed. This is a track that should absolutely be on your bucket list. It's located in northern Italy, right near the fashion capital of the world in Milan. It's considered to be the temple of speed. The track primarily consists of very long straights that are divided by tight chicanes in its modern day configuration. This is an extremely low downforce track, meaning they're going to make the cars as slick as possible to make them slide through the air as seamlessly as possible. And it's an extremely fast circuit, some of the highest speeds in all Formula One. This is the home also the Tifosi, which is the hardcore Ferrari fans like James over there. These are diehard fans, and arguably, as someone who's been to this race, it is one of the greatest podium celebrations in all the motorsports. It's an absolute party. Especially if Ferrari ends up on the podium. So it's an absolute must to add to your bucket list.
Yeah, so the next track we're going to talk about is Spa, which is located in the high elevation in the mountains of Belgium in their Ardennes forest. Just the name Spa holds tremendous meaning in the world of motorsports because of this track. Arguably near the top of every F1 fan's bucket list, it's an extremely fast yet very treacherous course, as it has over 19 curves and nearly 4.5 miles with significant elevation and sometimes significant weather changes. We did not get to see an actual race happen in 2021. We are very hopeful that we will see a completed Spa event in 2022.
So next up for Suzuka, another fan favorite track, and one we haven't been to since 2019 at this point, so happy to go back here. It is designed to be Honda's test track and is owned by Honda. It is famous for its figure 8 layout and an iconic circuit around the world, and really the home of F1 in Japan. It is famous for crowning multiple world champions, and it's unfortunately infamous for being the site of the last death in F1 of Jules Bianchi, godfather of Charles Leclerc.
Future world champion Charles Leclerc. All right, next up we got Silverstone, considered the home of British motorsports and the home track for the majority of F1 teams. The circuit is on the site of a World War II Royal Air Force bomber station, and the track consists of very fast straights and some heavy braking zones with tight corners. Lots of cool names for corners and straights, such as Maggots and Beckett's, the Hanger Straight, Stowe, Abbey, and more. Andy?
Yeah, just want to talk really quickly about Circuit of the Americas, or COTA. So for you fans in the U.S., this was it's been on the calendar since 2012, and it's been the home of the USGP ever since. Recently just got an extension to their contract, so it will continue to be the home of the USGP for at least the next 5 seasons. The track itself is kind of an amalgamation of a lot of the best bits of different tracks, but it all sort of really kind of works and comes together. It's located in Austin, Texas. As we discussed earlier, we had a huge turnout at the last event in 2021. We are hoping for something very similar to happen in 2022 and the years to come. If you get a chance to go out there, it is definitely worth the price of admission. I would highly recommend it. So what is an F1 weekend, or how does an F1 weekend actually look? So this has been a little bit tweaked going into 2022. Typically, running would happen between Friday and Sunday. That's still the same case, but the timing of the running is a little bit different. So free practice 1, which is the very first practice session, that kicks off in the early afternoon. It is 60 minutes on Friday. And then free practice 2 is now slated. Free practice 1 used to be a morning session. Now it's going to be, these are basically going to be pretty much in the afternoons. Free practice 2 will be a late afternoon session. Again, that's 60 minutes. Again, you can run however you want. It's just to let the drivers and the teams get acclimated to the track, see how the tires work, etc. Saturday generally turns to setting the grid. In a typical race weekend, we would have free practice 3. Again, that will happen now Saturday early afternoon. That's, again, a 60-minute session. At that point, all of the teams go into what's called Parc Fermé, or when they come out for the first qualifying session, they are put under Parc Fermé, which is French for closed park. And that basically means you can't really adjust the car very much after that point, with the exception of tires, fuel, and minor aerodynamic front wing adjustments. No other changes can be made to the car for the remainder of the weekend. Qualifying on a non-sprint race weekend would typically happen Saturday late afternoon, and that is broken up into 3 sessions. Q1, which is 18 minutes. We take our 20 drivers and we cull it down by 5. So the top 15 drivers. So during those 18 minutes, you can run however many qualifying laps you want, and the fastest of your qualifying attempts is what counts. So the top 15 advance into Q2. And then in Q2, we eliminate another 5 drivers, and we do this the same, except it's only 15 minutes long. And then our top 10 drivers advance into Q3, which is the run for pole. Q3 determines the pole position and positions 2 through 10, and that is only 10 minutes long. So pretty much, typically you'll see 1 or 2 qualifying runs per session. Sometimes you can get a third one in, but that's pretty rare. As we also talked about, there will be 3 sprint races, so that is a slightly different format. For the events in Imola, Austria, and Brazil, the qualifying is moved to Friday. The sprint race is held on the Saturday, and there are points now awarded to the top 8. And Sunday will work just like any other race weekend. As for Sunday afternoon's race day, that, like I said, will happen typically during the early afternoon on Sunday. There is a 2-hour maximum time limit. Most races will go anywhere from 90 to 105 minutes.
Thanks for tuning in to our F1 for Beginners series. Make sure to check out the rest of the episodes in this series, as well as our race previews and reviews for every race throughout the season on our YouTube channel. You can also find us on Twitter, Instagram, Discord, and Reddit at Outlet F1 Podcast. Do us a solid and click like and subscribe on YouTube, or click that 5-star button if you're an Apple Podcast or Spotify.
And as always, may all your laps be fast.